Today we are going to talk about creating your uh, private lender pitch deck. All
Hey,
right.
Amir.
Yes. Hey, how are you, Major?
Sorry I missed last week. I was helping with calls and see we're over 800 people in the group now.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, isn't it? So
Yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
missed you when you're not there. I don't, and I think last week we had a lot of people. I don't know why, what happened, but we had a lot of people last week. So
That's
I kept telling them, hey, go check the the chat for the links, and I don't know if there was a link there or not. So hopefully somebody help. So just so that you know, guys, when I'm doing the presentation or I have a guest, I can't keep track of the chat. So if you have any question, just raise your hand towards the end. We'll have time and we'll do question answer session. All right, so like I said earlier, today is going to be a presentation, so we don't have a guest, and today's presentation is going to be about making your own pitch deck. So I'm going to share my screen, so let me know you can see it. Just put a thumbs up so I can know that you can see my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so um, creating your own private lender pitch deck. So obviously, let's talk about the first thing. Why do you need one? Private money lender and private money lenders are the blood for the slow flip model, as you know. So even if you are able to maybe fund the first one, two, or three slow flips yourself, as Scott says, eventually you're going to run out of funds, right? And you will need additional funding. So no matter how you do it, you will need private money lenders, right? Now, here's one problem that I've seen from our community. I see messages that you meet a private lender maybe at a meeting, maybe at a party or something, and while you have some idea but you're not really prepared, and you try to make a pitch, and of course, it didn't turn out the way you were expecting it. Well, so that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that you just can't make up stuff. You have to have a well thought out, prepared outline. All right. It doesn't have to be detailed in the sense that it has to be 50 pages or anything like that, but you really have to think it through. So you can't just make up stuff, right? All right. Next. Now, this is my suggestion. Again, use this as a guide. There are a couple of things that you definitely need in your pitch deck. So this is like definite. It's like you can't live without it. All right. So that's why I have the left-hand side, which is the must-haves, and I have the right-hand side, which is an optional things. Now, obviously, mine has everything, right? And I'll show you a glimpse of that as well, so you have an idea. But my point is, if you're starting out and let's say you're short on time, and instead of trying to do something which is more elaborate, even if you have the one which has the must have, then you'll have pretty good pitch deck. All right, so must have number one, your bio. A short bio is important. People, most of the time when you're talking to someone, if they don't know, if they know you well enough, yes and no, but still you do want a short bio. So it has to have enough information about yourself, especially if it's relevant to real estate investment. If it's not relevant to real estate investment, that's fine. There are a lot of people in our community who started slow flip businesses without any prior real estate experience, and they've had tremendous success, right? So maybe your business experience, maybe your experience in a W-2 job that shows that you know how to do project management, for example, right? Or manage something, or hire people and manage people. So anything that shows as relevant can go in your bio section. Explanation of the slow flip model. Now, this is big. You have to be able to explain uh, as simply as possible in your own words, what is the slow flip model? Uh, this is very important. What is the security? What security are you giving your private money lender? So I'll go through that in detail. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, how private money lenders will invest with you. Now, it sounds obvious, but maybe they're doing it for the first time. So you actually literally have to tell them how the process works. And finally, your contact information. Believe it or not, I've seen pitch deck which actually does not have a contact information page. So you actually need that because you never know what if the person you send it to, they forward it to somebody else. And guess what? That person may be really interested and now they don't even have your information, right? So these are the things definitely you need to have on your pitch deck. All right. Now, what about the optional things, the things that will actually really make it stand out? You need a sample deal showing numbers. Now, some newbies get stuck with this because they haven't done their first deal, and it's completely understandable. My suggestion is that I think there was a question about that in on the forum, I guess, and I've done that before as well. You can use deals done by other members in the community. You can use it as a sample, right? So, for example, if somebody posts a deal that they did successfully from starting to the finish, now you know the exact numbers, right? How much they bought it for, how long it took it, for them to fill it, what were the numbers when they filled it, right? So now you have some pictures because they're going to post it, so it's on the forum. They have the pictures, you have the numbers, and you have the timeline. That's all you need, right? Ask their permission. Hey, is it okay if I can use your deal in my pitch deck? And most cases, people will have no problem with that. Now, my suggestion is don't put an address. If they allow you to use the address, you can put the address. But even without that, it should be fine. The good thing with this is it will really, really help your pitch deck. It makes it real to have a property and then showing all the numbers. All right. Again, on the optional side, having a graphical explanation of how the slow flip model work. In my case, it's I feel that is very important. If you're presenting to someone and you have that explained in a graphical manner, it just makes it more easy for somebody to understand, especially when we're talking about the slow flip model. Somebody who has no experience in real estate, slow flip model is a little confusing. I mean, honestly, if you tell them for the first time, the idea of who will hold the deed, that whole idea for somebody who has no real estate experience is something hard. So if you show it graphically, it's a little bit easier. You have to have a frequently asked questions section where you can preemptively answer their questions that they're going to be asking you, and it just helps them and it helps you because you've already addressed those. So by the time they actually decide on their questions, they are a little bit further in terms of either committing or working with you. All right. So now I'm going to go through a little bit more detail. So number one, your short bio. Like I said, something brief but enough for your private money lender to assess your background. Right. That's what they're wanting to see is what is your background. All right. Now this is very important. Please understand. Be honest and transparent. Uh, it's very easy for people to just Google your name and you don't even know. If you haven't Googled yourself, please Google yourself. Because I'm telling you, it's so easy nowadays to find information about people. The reason why I'm mentioning that is there's nothing wrong if you have a W-2 job, right? But mention that. But if you don't mention it and you are saying that I'm an investor and I do this, and somebody Googles you and they find that you work for, I don't know, UPS or whatever, it's just now confusing for somebody who was really thinking as you as someone that they would like to work with. So for example, if you go and you check my LinkedIn profile, my website, dreamprimehomes.com, the timeline, the verbiage, and what I do all lines up. Meaning to say, even when I say, well, from this time to this time, I was doing this, if you go to my LinkedIn, you can actually see it matches up. All right. Because I'm telling you, people will do that. I've had my private money lenders who are not on Bigger Pockets. I have a profile on Bigger Pockets and I don't have a lot of information there. They've gone there. They've especially set up an account just so they could look at my profile. All right. So people will look at your background. So be transparent. Try to make sure everything lines up. And ideally, if you have a website that says exactly what you are saying, it also helps. All right. Explanation of the slow flip model. Now, in order to explain the slow flip model convincingly, obviously, you have to understand the fundamental concept really well. All right. Now, I say the best test is, can you explain the slow flip model to a 10-year-old? And if the 10-year-old looks at you and looks very, very confused, then you have to do what? You just have to use easier words, right? That's all you have to do. If you really, really break it down to the lowest level, you'll actually get to a point where you're actually explaining it in a way that, a 10-year-old can understand it. So once you break it down, and if you can do that, then you can explain it to anybody who's new to slow flip model. Write out the slow flip model concept concisely in 2 or 3 short paragraphs. Refine it till it sounds clear. Now, this is obviously very important. What security does the private money lender receive? This should explain, their investment is secured, insured, and protected. So how are we doing that? The security is provided by the promissory note, right? Protection is provided by the mortgage, and they're insured. Of course, we have a property insurance policy. You can also go beyond this if you like. I also buy title insurance for them. So I buy 2 title insurance policy. One is mine, I hold the deed, and I also buy one for my private money lenders. But what I'm saying is mention this. If you don't mention it, then it's a question that they're definitely going to be asking you. Remember, this is all in the must-have. So this is definitely has to be in your pitch deck. You can't miss these things. How can your private money lender invest with you? So this is where the mechanics come in, right? So you're actually going to explain how the transaction is going to happen. This means you have to explain that once the property is under contract, you'll have the mortgage, promissory note, and the insurance prepared. Now, I know you can get this done through the title company or your attorney as well. My experience is many times either they don't do it or it's just easier for me to have it prepared. So I actually prepare them directly and I send them to my private money lender by FedEx, have them have it notarized, and then they go out to the title company. But what I'm saying is this whole process, if they don't know and they don't expect how it's going to happen, guess what? The timelines are going to be really messed up. You thought that, oh, it was going to be easy in 4 or 5 days we'll have it done. But no, it actually takes longer, right? So you got to work back. So you got to know it, and then you have to be able to explain it to your private money lender. You have to keep the private money lender also informed about the scheduled closing date, to ensure that the private money lender wires the fund to ensure there's smooth closing. Now, these are all obvious things for somebody who's done real estate. I'm telling you again because there are people you're going to, especially if you're going to meet someone who says, oh, this is exciting, but I've never done this before. That should be not a red flag, but there should be a warning for you to know, hey, this guy doesn't know anything about the transactional side. So I have to be really careful. I have to really walk them through. So some of these things have to be in your pitch deck so that they understand that. All right. And then your contact information. This is obvious. It has to be there that your pitch deck should have that listed. Now, ensure your contact information, like I said before, matches the information that is listed on your website and social media. So, for example, your website has a different phone number, but your pitch deck is showing your cell number. There's nothing wrong with it. All I'm saying is it should match, right? Same as your social media links. If you're going to put that, then make sure your website has those links. Or don't do this. For example, somebody does a whole bunch of things. You're doing, and I know it can get really, really confusing. If you're doing flipping or you have construction business, now you're doing this. Well, then at some point you're going to make a decision. What are you going to do? You either have a page dedicated for slow flipping, and then you could have your website with the /, and that would be the page for slow flipping. Then everything, including your pitch deck, should have that URL, right, with the / and that page. Otherwise, they're going to a generic website that talks about new construction. And I can tell you that's one of the easiest ways for a potential private money lender to just get confused. And guess what? Anybody who's going to be confused, it's not going to invest, right? So you want it very clear and very straightforward. So in my case, what I do is this last point here, you can even have a link for them to complete a PML interest form on your website. What that means is you're bringing them on to the process. So remember, being pitch deck being your first step, you are either giving it to them, you're either emailing it to them, or you are actually presenting to them, just like I'm doing this presentation. And then the next step could be, what do I do next? Well, there could be a QR code there. They click on that, or go to that link from that QR code is a form. It could be a form on your website, which is them officially saying, hey, I'm interested, sign me up. You know what I'm saying? So have some action plan on your pitch deck for them to do next. Now, these are the optional things that I mentioned. A sample deal showing the numbers. Now, obviously, this is very helpful for your potential private money lender to understand the slow flip concept. If you already done a deal, use that as an example, like I said, which is very easy. If you're not done a deal, use a deal. Like I said before, in our community, many members list success stories, ask their permission, and use that as a sample. Let me see if I can share this with you. Uh, Stop share. This is a, this is, okay, yeah, let me just share this with you. So this is one of my pitch deck, and this is a couple of things, but this one was about the graphical representation of the slow flip model. I like to use that. I don't know if you can see it. Let me zoom in. Can I zoom in? You see it? So there. You see that? Now, for me, when I'm talking to them, this is what I'm using when I'm talking to them. You know, you're here on this side, I'm here on this side, this is what I do. And so this is step one, this step. I'm not saying you do this exactly the same thing. Just come up with your own, but have something, right? And then oh, here's a sample deal. So this is what I use. This was actually my first deal that I did. And so you could have your sample deal, obviously pictures, what did you buy it at, what did you sell it at, what was the condition of the property, who did you sell it to, what was the down payment you got, what was the mortgage that you were able to get it for, all that kind of thing. It just makes it really, really real for the private money lender. Otherwise, you're just talking about hypothetical, right? In my case, since it was my property, I actually had the address down there, right? So that's something you could do, right? Okay. So next is, like I said, the graphical explanation. So I already talked about that. So FAQ section. So, think of all possible questions a PML would ask, right? I mean, even if it's obvious, just put it there. The more it is, the better it is. Then what you do is just write short answers for those. That's your FAQ section. Now, in my case, I also do this. Think of all the things that can go wrong. For example, guess what? One of the most popular question private money lenders ask. One of the things that you may or may not think about. Well, what if you die? Right? So you have to address that. Well, if something happens to me, then the business operates in an LLC, and my heirs are going to continue paying based on the contract or the agreement, right? So what I'm saying is, again, you have to just think what are the things that they're going to be thinking about. Now, another thing you may want to add in the frequently asked questions is what is the process for you to pay your private money lender, right? If you don't say it, then it'll come up. Do you pay 30 days after? Do you pay immediately after closing? Because remember, your closing might happen middle of the month. It might happen right at the end of the month. So I'm just sharing with you in my agreement with my private money lender is, when I say agreement, I don't have a contract, right? But before they signed up, I shared that information with them, right? So when I told them in my FAQ says that they're gonna get paid 30 days after they close the deal. That's in my agreement. But guess what? I always pay them immediately after they close the deal, which means if they close the deal on the 25th of the month, on the first of the month, I actually pay them for the full month. So in other words, as you say, I'm just, trying to be on top of it and make them so happy that they don't even ask that question that, hey, when am I going to get paid? Because they know that I always pay them as soon as I close, I would go ahead and pay them. So, but I would list that as something that is your policy. That's how you do business. So they know, okay, this is what the expectation is, right? And that's basically it. So I can answer any questions. Just raise your hand so I can just call on you. So Major, go ahead, please.
Awesome. Thanks. I don't know what you got planned for next week, but it might be good to actually give your presentation to everybody like we're potential lenders so they can see what it would be like for them to do it when they go out and talk to people. And then maybe their kind of homework is start putting theirs together and they can send it to you and me. We'll review it and give them some ideas of what to update. And then maybe you got 2 or 3 people who would be happy to do a presentation to the whole group.
I like that idea. We can talk about that more. Sure. That's really cool. Okay. Michael?
Yeah, can you go back to your first slide? What you do, or what the
Yeah.
slow flip process is, and perhaps to some people, like, you don't want to start showing them really junky, crappy houses because they're gonna be like, "Ugh, I don't really want my money to go." You know?
But see, that's what I'm saying. Why do you feel that? Because that's the truth. So why are you? Because see, the point is that's what you have to understand. If you're not transparent, you're talking to someone, you're actually painting a picture about something that may or may not become true. And guess what? Somebody signs up based on that, and guess what? They're going to be disappointed, right?
Well, I can see your point. I mean, so this is in. I think it was. What's the slide before that?
This is
Maybe the
the
next
first slide.
slide.
Mhm.
Go to the next slide. There we go, this one. So
Mhm.
when your must-have, your bullet point number 2, explanation of the slow flip model, maybe you might explain it, but do you? I'm not really sure. And Scott basically agreed. Like, don't be talking, showing pictures or having what Ron LeGrand talks about is diarrhea of the mouth, because
Oh, I
then,
understand you. I understand
yeah,
what you're saying. I know what Scott says, and I completely agree with. So I'm not saying anything contrary to what Scott says. What
yeah.
I have to say is that remember when Scott says that when he's talking about his private money lender, remember he also says that all his private money lenders have been referred to him, and they've been with him for many, 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 many years. So he doesn't give them any information at all. He would not even talk about that, right? But you and I
Right.
are not in that situation. When most likely when you're going to talk to a private money lender, it's going to be a stranger. So not
Yeah.
only they don't know your track record, they don't know what experience you have in real estate, and they don't know if you can do it, right? So in their eyes, you just have to prove everything. So, like I said, you can put whatever you want. That's not the thing. Obviously, everybody will decide on their own. I'm just saying, in my experience, I can tell you some of my private money lenders are very sophisticated. I can tell you one guy, he's a ex-banker with a lot more than 25 years experience. So he's not somebody who's like somebody who just came out, and he understood everything that I presented to him, numbers and everything. But when I presented the pictures and everything, he knew what I was talking about. He knew that these are distressed properties. So it's his expectation was already there. So they
Yeah.
barely ask me any questions when I show them the property. They already know what it is. But I understand your concern. You're right. If you scare them, yes. But then what that means is then you will always have to find a property that will meet their standard, which you set them up for, right, during your presentation. That, oh, all these are nicer properties, or oh, there's nothing wrong with them, or cosmetically there might be some problems, but they're great properties. But then it's going to be hard for you to find those properties, right, at this price point.
Yeah, I mean, the property you showed, your property, that's a great property. It's a great property for your pitch deck. some of the properties that Joey pulls up during, the training that I see up, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who would pay for that. Who would fund that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. I understand what you're saying. And by the way, the first property, again, I just maybe got lucky. So yes, it is a fantastic property. I just got, good property and all that. But if it was even the any other property, I would still show. And by the way, I do have my other properties that I show, which are the smaller 2 bedroom, 1 bath and all that. And I show them pictures. In fact, all my private money lenders, I have a portal on which my private money lenders go and they look at the deal flow and everything. And in the deal flow, I not only have pictures and it shows everything. It shows them all the things that are broken in the house, all the things that are messed up, and it has a video walkthrough. After all of that, they commit to the property. So in other words, they have no reason to come back to me after 30 days or 60 days after committing and funding by saying, oh, I don't like the property, because I've already put everything in front of them. They know what they're getting into.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Maybe you can about this. There is a template for a pitch deck. You're having this meeting tonight to basically talk to people about how they should put one together that talks about them. Does it make sense to maybe have a group pitch deck? Hey, we're part of this group.
Yeah.
This group has never defaulted on the 800 loans we have here. Here are numerous examples of deals done by other members in the group, one after another, and they're on all a success path, even though none of them are yours. And then you basically are showing your private lender the power of the group, not necessarily the individual. That you as an individual, that you're guided by the lessons of the group, that you have a proven formula that works, and here are the clear examples. And yes, some of them are ugly, but they do work. You know what I mean?
Right. So, okay, so that's a good point. My pitch deck is geared towards my avatar. And you know what an avatar is, the representation of your ideal client. So you're absolutely right. My pitch deck, even if I give it to you, it will not work for you because your avatar might be different. The potential private money lender you're going to speak to, if he's different, that's not going to work because my actual pitch deck is very different. It talks about things that so my private money lenders are people with self-directed IRA. That's who my private money lenders are. All of them have private self-directed IRAs, right? So I'm talking about those things. I'm talking about things that are important to them. Tax benefits, for example, it's coming from a tax sheltered account and it's going back into that. So those are the things that are in my pitch deck. But if let's say you're talking to, I don't know, physicians, then that would be important to you. So I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of avatar, I'd like to touch back upon that, but I'll let anybody else go ahead of me. So I'll just hold that question for a moment.
Sorry, say that again.
I'll hold that question.
I was going to respond to Michael. Like, actually, everybody should be getting emails right now. As we're preparing for the Freedom Summit, there's questionnaires and everything. So, for example, last year in January's Freedom Summit, the member of the groups had over 600 deals that they did the previous year. So yeah, we're kind of putting numbers together for that, like what you mentioned about what the whole group's doing together.
Okay.
Yeah.
We touched upon Avatar here. Let me ask you something about Avatar. You maybe have just clarified it for me. You're self-directed IRA. These are people who are trying to really really make their IRA funds perform. Right? So they've invested in a self-directed IRA. They learned about the self-directed IRAs. They've converted the money to self-directed IRA. Now they've got to get that money into a high-performing asset. And that's perhaps the best avatar that you picked out. The question I want to ask is, I have a friend who just who sold his company like last week for about $50 million. Do you think that I should approach him about lending at all, or is he not my avatar, and that I should really be looking for people who are trying to work their retirement money to a higher return? Because obviously he doesn't care anymore, maybe, but he's got money.
Right. I mean, like I said, I mean, you could do that, which means you could work with private people with self-directed IRA and their engineers. For example, let's say you're an engineer, right? And then you want to work with people with self-directed IRA who are also engineers. And guess what? You can maybe access them through some networking group. Because you're an engineer, you can be in that group, and now you have something in common with them, and that's something you can use to access that group, you know. So there's many ways on how you can approach this. That's how I approached it, and so that's why my pitch deck is geared towards that. My point is that everybody should make their own pitch deck. You can take a template for ideas, but if you start just putting in a word here, word there, but use what was already there, it's not going to be your pitch deck. So when it will come time for you to explain everything that's in the pitch deck, you're gonna go because you didn't write it. You know, you use a template. So write it yourself, whatever it is, even if it's short, just write it yourself. It'll be very strong because you'll know every single word in it.
My question was more about, what type of people are more likely to lend to us. And I think in your case, people who've got that self-directed IRA are probably great candidates, as opposed to really rich people who really maybe don't want to lend at these price points. They'll lend $1 million, but they're
I,
not really interested in lending out.
No, I've spoken to a lot of people with self-directed IRA, and they didn't turn out to be the exact match for me because they wanted something else. So don't assume that. Because what if they are looking at, well, I don't want to invest for 5 years. Even though they have the funds, but they don't want to do it. Do you see that? So at several levels, they mentally have to not only understand what this is, and they have to be okay with the time frame, which is a 5-year time frame, right? So just because they have a self-directed IRA doesn't mean they're going to be okay with 5 years.
Right. Okay. Thanks.